Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Dr. Herbert Harris, and this is Success Mentorship class number 441. And today's topic is a profound one, the conversation that changes everything. And tonight we are really, this morning, we are super blessed with one of our great trainers and speakers and authors, Dawn Lovell, hailing to us from Barbados, but she has been a customer service expert, a writer, an author, and a real bedrock for the Success Mentorship platform. So you'll be hearing from her in a moment. I'll give you a few minutes to get your pen, get your pad, because when she speaks today, that topic, the conversation that changes everything, she means it. And so sit back, get your notes, get ready. Those of you who are new to the platform, I'm Dr. Herbert Harris, and author of the 12 Universal Laws of Success. And I'll call myself the What's Next strategist, the person who helps you get from where you are to where you want to be with the least amount of resistance and the greatest amount of encouragement. So I have a special we'll call it complimentary success strategy session. So go to our website, herbertharris.com, and book a call, and I can help you go from where you are to where you want to be. Before we get into our message today, let us get centered. Let us do our meditation to shut out all of the vibrations from the outside world and to focus completely on the vibrations created in this program as a result of your presence and my presence working together on one accord. So let's sit straight up in our seats. I prefer to put my hands palm down on my knees. Close your outer eyes. Open your inner eyes. Take a deep breath and hold it. Let it out slowly. Take a deep breath and hold it. Let it out slowly. And then the space of peace and relaxation. I am at peace with myself. Let us affirm that together. I am at peace with myself. Just let that peaceful state sink in. Take a deep breath. And as you release that breath, feel the calmness. And in this state of peace and relaxation, my mind is open, receptive, and ready to learn. Let us affirm that together. My mind is open, receptive, and ready to learn. Take a deep breath. Let it out slow. Wow. Well, this morning, this talk today with Dawn is one that I have been waiting for, because if you notice over these last, I guess really about 6 months, this has been a year of journey, a year in which we've given messages that guide you from point A to point B with the goal of helping you to become grounded in the powers that you have. Each message sort of builds on the one before. Each message gives you another level of insight to help you be, do, and have all that you desire. And so Dawn, speaker, author, teacher, customer service expert, is coming to us from Barbados in the beautiful Caribbean. And Dawn, welcome, and take it away. When you shared your topic, the conversation that changes everything. It sent my mind just spinning because it's all about conversation. The conversations you have with yourself, the conversations you have with other people. And I think that the conversations we have with ourselves and with others really determines the level of our interaction and our success. So, Dawn, take it away.
Thank you so much, Dr. Harris. Good morning, everyone. It is always a pleasure to be here. And I'm going to say, first of all, shout out to all of those that are watching us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, a special good morning to all of those in our Zoom room. It's always a pleasure to sit in this position. I usually love being behind the scenes, but I felt it was time, and I guess Dr. Harris felt it was time as well to sit in this position to bring you a message because my presentations are always a message, I believe, and a message that not is only about informing, but a message that is supposed to initiate the process of transformation. So I'm hoping that that's what this is going to do for you today. The topic, the conversation that changes everything. And Dr. Harris really started the ball rolling for me because, when I was thinking about this, it put me back to a place of what is it that I need to say? What is the conversation that I need to have? And as I start this introduction, I am pretty sure that this is going to speak to many of you. The word conversation tells us that it is a back and forth, it's an interaction. So, and as a customer service coach, one of the things I talk about so much is the concept of conversation and communication. And we know that communication makes or breaks relationships. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to do it a little differently today. So just let me know when you can see my screen. And we are going to get started on this journey today. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so the conversation, that changes everything. An introduction to the new iteration of you. A
I know,
new
Dawn,
iteration.
just to interrupt, you may want to put it in presentation mode and start.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I,
there we
I
go.
thought I had. There we go. Thank you, Dr. Harris. An
Beautiful.
introduction to the iteration of you. And an iteration is a new version, an upgraded, improved version of something. And I love this word iteration because it means we can go again and again and again. And many of you that are in business, even in training, you talk about, or even producing a product, we always talk about a new iteration. We're always going through a process of improvement. So today, that is what our conversation is going to be about. So let's start this off. One of the key things I want persons to always remember the power of conversation. Now, a conversation, if we think about it in reality, conversations start wars and conversations can end wars. And it's so critical when you look at the world today. We look at all of the wars that are happening, all of the issues that are happening, and lots of them, most of them, the majority of them are started by just a conversation. And we know that a conversation can end a lot of what's happening in the world today, a lot of how we see each other, a lot of wars that have begun. It is so very important to understand that conversation is where we really need to start the process of iteration. Alrighty, so I think you might be seeing my presenter screen. So let me just check that. I think it's because I have two screens running. So I'm going to pull one screen and just let me know what you're seeing on the slide. Just give me 1 second. Let's make sure that we are good here. All right.
There you go.
Awesome. You see, this is when you're trying to use too much technology. You have two screens running and all this different stuff. So now we're really good to go. So as I was saying, wars, breakdowns in relationships, all of these start by one conversation. And we know that the important conversation that I want to mention today is the conversation that we have, not just with others, but the conversation that we have with ourselves. That is one of the most important conversations you will ever need to have. So we're going to go through what I call a framework. Because I'm a trainer, one of the things I love to do is establish frameworks. What it does, it gives you an easy way of being able to go through the process. It helps you to be able to align and connect the dots from one thing to another. So there are 4 questions, and I'm saying this because I want you to sit down and to really visualize, where do you see yourself in the next year? You know, Dr. Harris has been talking to us, many of us, for years, and we talk about the power of vision. We talk about being able to see, the next step. We're able to see 5, 10 years into the future. What is it that we want to do, to be, and to have? And this is one thing I want you to just take one moment. We're going to about 30 seconds, and I want you to visualize, where do you see yourself only in the next year, not 5, not 10 years, but in the next year. So we're going to take a moment and we're going to do that. 30 seconds. I want you to think about it. I want you to be engaged. I want you to be present. If you need to write it down, you can do that. But where do you see yourself in the next year? August 2027. Because this is key to what we're going to be doing next. Okay, so now that you've written that down, and know that you've visualized it and it's very clear and present in your mind, I want you to ask yourself this question. What is one conversation that you need to have to begin, to sustain, or to execute that vision that you just saw or wrote down? What is one conversation that you need to have to begin, to sustain, or execute that vision that you just saw or you just wrote? What if I told you that one conversation, that one decision is going to determine if you achieve that or not? And I'm talking about the kind of conversation that after it, you can no longer remain the same. You cannot. What is that conversation that you need to have? Because let's be honest, many of us have conversations, but conversations sometimes can be wasted. They can be wasted time and they can be wasted energy. Many of us are having conversations, but we're not having the right conversations. We're not having relevant conversations. We're not having transformative and life-changing conversations. And I'm not sure about you, but I know for me, at this stage and juncture of my life, in this season of my life, there are conversations that I can't afford. And there are conversations that I can't afford not to have. All right, so let's go a little deeper into this. As I said, there's some conversations that are worth your time and there's some that are not. And this is where we have to become, because we have to understand that at this stage, many of us don't get a do-over. You know, where you're young, kids, teenagers and stuff like that, they might mess up. You might have a friend that you and them might have had a situation and they ask, can I have a do-over? And while that's a good thing, and it's always good to be able to allow that, and it's always good because that also, grace is also extended to you for you to have a do-over, and that's fine. But there's some aspects of our lives that we know that we will not get a do-over. There's some aspects of our lives, some things that we've grown into that took us so long to get here, that to have a do-over means we have to go through another 10 years of the cycle. We have to do another 6 years. We have to do another 2 or 3 or another 20 years. Can you afford that right now? Can you afford a do-over? And these are the things that we have to analyze. I always call it a personal audit. You have to analyze these things in your life. What are the things that I can do? If I were 16 years old and I wanted to be a gold medalist in the, track and field, 100-meter dash. At 16 years old, I could probably go, not do so well and come back and have a do-over. But if I'm 30, if I'm in my 30s, there's not much of a do-over because as we know, some of these things, some of these goals, they have a time limit to them. So that's one thing. So let's go through this framework because there are 4 questions here that I'm going to speak about today that are worth sitting with yourself and asking. This is one I know you've heard many times and we had, who am I? But I want to add a bit more to that question. Who am I becoming? Who am I becoming? Not just who am I? And the reason why we ask this question, for me, I've done the analysis and I'm very introspective, so I keep doing it all the time. And I love who I am becoming, and I'll tell you why. Because the who I am becoming no longer requires a person's permission. The who I am becoming no longer allows people's words and actions to penetrate my soul. The who I am becoming is the person that now asks for what she needs and does not tolerate or accept what she doesn't. So who am I becoming? Who are you becoming? Second question, where am I going? What is the vision for my next chapter? Some of us, we have visions that were in a 1.0 and we created that vision 10 years ago. Is that vision still relevant? Is it still valid? Or does there need to be a new iteration of that? Because as we know, as time and seasons change, as the world changes, as business changes, as the dynamics of operations change, we have to understand that the vision, even though it was good for that time, you may have to make some tweaks. You may have to change. It may need some innovation. You may need to add some things. You may need to subtract some things. You may need to reevaluate some things. You may need to reimagine. I remember, Chris, I would never forget Christine's message about recreating and renegotiating your life. You may have to renegotiate some things. Maybe your health is not where it was before. Maybe your money is not where it was before. Maybe the relationships you have are not where they were before. So how am I now reevaluating this vision for the next chapter of my life? It's so important because if you don't understand that, we know that you're not going to get where you want to go. You're not going to be aligned with what it is you expect to accomplish. And I went back to, I remember this story about Jim Carrey, and I remember, when he was in a particular season of his life, he didn't have money and stuff, and he wrote himself $1 million check. He didn't have any money at that point. He was struggling financially, but eventually he did receive that $1 million check when he did the movie The Mask. So it is not that the vision is not, can't accomplish it, but the thing is now, is that vision what I see for myself now in the next 5, 10, 15 years of my life? Maybe your circumstances change. Maybe you have children and you didn't have children when you created your vision. Maybe you were married and you're not married now, so you don't have that partner that you thought would have been with you on this journey for your vision. So let's recalibrate. Where am I going now? Third question, am I aligned? Do my choices support where I'm headed? Now, this is so very important because your choices have to do with the relationships, your habits, it has to do with your environment, the conversations that you're having. Do all of those things support where you are headed? And I use my son as an example because I believe God gave him to me to show me how to live out destiny. I really do. I've never seen somebody so invested. And the vision he had when he was 6 years old is the same vision, but there are different iterations. He always wanted to be an international cricketer, international sportsman. And I've seen that live out in his life up until this point. He just turned 18, and I had a conversation with him recently. And let me just give you the practicality of this, very practical terms. So I said to him, well, you're 18 now, school is over. Are we going to university? What do we want to do? I know that you have your vision of becoming an international cricketer, but what are the other things are we going to use here to supplement, to support all of these other things? So I'm having the conversation. And he says to me, he says, well, yeah, I'm going to university. And I felt good about that because I'm thinking, well, yes, we're going to make sure that he's well-rounded, his education, and all of these wonderful things. And he's always done well in school. But here was something he said to me that really made me ponder. Just having a random conversation one day, we really weren't talking about university and college in that way. And he said to me, he said he chose university because there's a program at the university that is going to align him and give him a pathway to play cricket. I said, wow. Now, he had already determined in his mind the program he wanted to do and why he was going to the college here in Barbados, because there was a pathway to the future that he wanted and the vision. So I'm going to ask you, are your choices, what you're doing, your business, your relationships, are they aligned? Are they a pathway to the vision you want to accomplish? Are they a pathway? Fourthly, I want you to ask this question, and sometimes this is a difficult question. What do I need to remove? What no longer serves me? What no longer serves the who I'm becoming? And this one is one that I am really dealing with at this point because I'm one of those people that I'm busy all the time. You know, I'm busy all the time. And I'm asking myself, Dawn, are you being busy or are you being productive? I think I'm being productive. Can I be more productive? Yes, but I'm busy all the time. But I was listening to the book by Benjamin Hardy, Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. That book, 10x is easier than 2x, and it transformed my thinking. They said in the book, there's a story about Michelangelo. It starts out with him, and it's about the creation of the famous statue, the David. And in that story, it was asked, what was the secret to his genius? And Michelangelo reported, and he said it was really very simple. As he was chiseling this sculpture, he was, creating it out of marble, beautiful. He said, I removed everything that wasn't David. That captured me. I will never forget that as long as I live. He removed everything from that sculpture that was not David. What is it in your life that you need to remove? What are the things that are extra baggage? What are the things that are good, but they're not contributing to your greatness? You see, we somehow think that it's better to do more. I'm realizing mastery requires you to do less. And I've committed that I am going to be a master. I don't know about you, but being involved in too many activities has caused me to water down every activity. Nothing that I can produce will ever be great if I'm split in 5, 10, 15 different positions. Because because of who I am, I'm committed to giving all of them my best. And by doing that, I can't give none of them my best. So these are critical conversations that we need to have. Who am I becoming? Not just who I am. And does that reflect the person, the being that I want to be? What's the vision for the next iteration of me? What is the vision for the next version? When is that next version going to drop? You always have, it's so amazing when you think of companies. We have Apple and all these companies, and I think it's every year they bring out a new version, an upgraded version, and we always know when it's going to drop. I'm surrounded by Gen Zs and millennials, and they always know when is the new version of Apple going to drop. And by the time it's ready to drop, you would have lines and lines of people just waiting for that iteration. When is the next version of you going to drop? Because for some of us, we haven't determined that. We're saying, I have this vision. And yes, Dr. Harris teaches us you have to have a timeline. So we know we need smart goals, and that's wonderful. But you have not definitively defined the day, the time, the hour that the new iteration of you is going to drop. Are you aligned? Do your choices right now support where you want to go? And if they do not, are you willing to remove and to chisel everything, anyone, any situation, any business, any opportunity that does not support the David? Because you don't want a David, you don't want a Herbert, you don't want a Sheila that is a watered down version, that is a version that is mutated, that is a version that does not totally represent who you are. So it's critical that we make these decisions. The conversation that changes everything. Imagine yourself a year from now after you've had the conversation, after you've asked yourself those questions. Imagine what you will look like. Picture yourself, because many of us know what we need to do. Many of us know what we need to cut. Myself and Dr. Harris, we were having a conversation only this week, and I came to him and I was so frustrated. I said, Dr. Harris, and I explained the situation. And he said, Dawn, we're going to deal with this. But before we deal with it, I had to make a decision. I had to have a very important conversation. And that conversation could potentially cost me a friendship. But you know what? My destiny, the version of me that needs to immerse, the mastery in me that needs to come forth, that relationship cannot support it because the person did not value that part of me. That person, even though I love them, and I'm sure they love me, they committed to something that they never, ever delivered on. And it put me in a situation where my goal, my vision, the thing that God gave me was going to be seriously, not even just disrupted, but it could have ended. The opportunity and the window for it to happen, I would have missed it. And I don't have the time for a 10-year cycle. I don't have the time for a 2-year cycle because the opportunity is now. So I had to have that conversation. So I want to encourage you today. I know this is a little deep, and Dawn, we always go deep for me, when I'm done, because these are the transformative moments that I have in my life. And when I come to share, I share from a space of this is what I've experienced. And my prayer is always that someone will get something from the message that will transform them in the way it transformed me. So I'm going to ask you today, when is the new iteration of you going to drop? When is the new iteration of you going to emerge? Because, as I said, many of us don't have the time. We will never have the other opportunity. for that iteration of you to emerge. And what happens in situations like that is that the version of you that exists right now is the version of you that remains. And that version of you, unfortunately, is not the ultimate version of you. So that is my message to you today. I pray that it would have brought some measure of deep introspection and reflection, and that you will make the decision to have the conversations with yourself and with others. Those conversations need to be precise. Those conversations need to be concise. Those conversations need to be direct. This is not a situation where we're trying to land the plane and we're coming all around the runway before we land. This is a direct conversation that needs to be had because your future and your destiny depends on it. So thank you very much. As always, Dr. Harris, thank you. This is my message for you today. God bless.
You had me hollering back here. I had to mute myself. Now, Don, you laid it out today. Your whole talk was a mic drop. Drop the mic, drop. The mic is beat up because you had dropped so many nuggets on us today. One thing we were talking about, when we had the conversation earlier, and many times people make commitments based on who they would like to be, but they always perform at the level of who they really are. And that's one of those things, I've found that, man, when I've been disappointed with people in my life, it's because their intentions were good, but when you put it back into something you talked about, mastery, the goal of the Life Skill Institute is to learn, practice, and master the skills of living. And what you laid out today, it's about mastery, because only what you master, you become. Woo. And I heard your message loud and clear as one of these people who has more arms than an octopus. Sometimes folks they're like, how do you do all the things you do? But you know what? I got to do less better. That's my takeaway. My personal takeaway from your message today is I have to do less better. And I got it. Wow. Well, Don, let me wrap up our live broadcast because I know people are out there trying to find paper and pens. When you tell people to get your pens, they're like, yeah. But then when the message starts dropping, they're like, where's my pen? Where's my pad? So thank you so much, those of you online, watching on YouTube, on Instagram, those of you who are sharing there, thank you so much. We appreciate your presence. This broadcast, this video, this lesson today is one for you to let it settle in you. Listen to it 2 or 3 times. Every time you listen, you'll hear something different. You'll hear a different level. And every time you listen, you become a little smarter, a little more aware. And then share it with other people. Many times, the greatest gift you can give to somebody is to share with them a message that can transform their lives. When Dawn said the conversation that changes everything, my curiosity was up. Like, what can that be? Well, you laid it out gratefully, and we appreciate you. So those of you who are watching live, thank you so much. Please share this broadcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, make comments, talk about how this message has resonated with you and how it transforms your life. I always invite you to visit our website, herbertharris.com, and learn more about our What's Next strategy sessions to help you do exactly what Dawn was saying, to help you move to that next level in your life with clarity, with commitment, with a plan, and with absolute determination to win, to win, and to win. You can say in your life, I love to call it the Champion's Creed. and to operate and live your life in such a fashion that you can say one day, that year from now that you asked about, Dawn, where will you be a year from now? That a year from now you can be on this broadcast celebrating and you can say the Champions Creed. This time it's me as in the winner's circle. This time it's me who gets the prize. This time I've really, really made it. This time my dream is realized. Thank you so much, Dawn, for helping us realize our dreams and giving us the tools to make it happen. Wow. Woo!